Good evening. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Inbaal. I'm a psychic, tarot reader, and witch, and I am broadcasting at you live from right here in the UK. We go out internationally, obviously, on the Bigfoot Outlaw Network. We are a channel chock full of esoteric programming, from cryptids to ghosts to haunted mansions to witchcraft and everything in between. If you like the spooky stuff, you're in the right place. We're broadcasting live right now on Instagram, Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. That is right now. When the live version is over, then we are uploaded to all the podcasting networks. So if you're watching us later on or listening to us later on, beware you can't sort of text live to the screen. But if you are on Facebook or on YouTube right now, please go ahead and send a message, and it's going to look a little like this. This is a message from Grizzly Chris coming from Facebook. He is the boss of the channel, and he says, you can support me by sending stars. Stars help me earn money to make more content. The content is 100% free for you. Any readings you've got on the show are entirely complimentary, no strings at all. So if you can send stars, go ahead and send stars. We also have a message from not our sponsor, but our good friend, friend to the show, friend to the channel, and also mine, Mark B, saying good evening, Inbaal. Hope that you're okay. Hello and good evening, everyone else. Please remember to press the like button so that you know when Inbaal and others are on. If you can like, if you can subscribe, whatever platform you're on, you will get notified when we go live. I keep saying we, even though you can see that it is only me here, because we are different psychics, different presenters on different shows. I'm on here every Tuesday at this time. It's 10 p.m. in the UK, 5 in the afternoon in New York, I think, maybe 2 p.m. in California, and I think exactly the opposite in Australia. So when it's like 10 p.m. here, it's like 10 a.m. there. So I'm on this time on a Tuesday, almost every Tuesday, not next Tuesday. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And I'm on a Thursday late morning with the marvelous Laura Dallaghan, who is a very gifted psychic and artist. Laura also runs workshops that allow you to connect to the goddess or to connect to the dragons, connect to the dragon spirits, and she is very, very worth checking out. So let me flash a couple more messages of you guys greeting each other, and then I'm going to introduce the topic, a topic that is very close to my heart, and I think we can all benefit from delving into it. So from Mark, we have an upside down exclamation mark, or maybe it's an I don't know, the first letter of my name. And Mark says, it looks like an interesting subject this evening because we all need ethics. Going to go into the subject in a minute, but I could not agree more. Sandy says, hello, Inbaal, blessings. Blessings, Sandy. Thank you for the crystal ball. Send us a little crystal ball. Let me hold back a little crystal ball at you. A crystal ball, like in a picture, is such a flattering prop because no matter how round your face is, and mine certainly is, the crystal ball will always be rounder, making my face look a little less round in comparison. The next message is from Mark saying, or rather boundaries, but I put them in the same bag. I do too. I really, really agree, because what we're going to look at are kind of the personal rules and regulations that you make up for yourself as you learn to give readings. Maybe you're a professional reader already yourself. Mark greeting Sandy. Sandy greeting Mark. I want to flash up all the messages so that you know I got everybody. Roger says howdy in Bal. Hi, hi, hi. Issa says evening, watching in bed. Right? Did it rain where you are? You're not very far from me, and we've had a couple of weeks that were really sunny, really glorious. And then today I didn't even notice the rain. I just kind of looked at the ground and I was like, why is everything wet? And it had just rained. Mark greeting Isa. Roger catching us up saying it's 5:05 p.m. here in Eastern Kentucky. I send you lots of love. You've still got chances to sort of turn this day into lots of positives. I'm at like 10 p.m. I've got the chance to, wash my makeup off and get in bed. Isa greeting Mark. Love that. Mark says, love, love, love Laura, lovely wee lassie. Laura is such a gift to this world. Laura, I have known Laura for 20 something years. She is not just gifted, but she is such a big heart. And if you don't know her, look her up. It's Laura Daligan. She's a huge presence on YouTube where some of her like instructional videos on how to do this in witchcraft, how to do that in witchcraft have like many, many, many thousands of fans. Rob says hi. Oh, hi, Rob, who has my dream algorithm saying, how late am I? When did it start? No, it didn't not start at all. What a fab topic, right? I won't be able to avoid introducing the topic. Let's just flip everybody. Mark greeting Rob. Rob saying hiya. Mark saying strange. It was sunny here all day. It must have been a stray cloud. I can't believe maybe I got the cloud and you did not. That is strange. Issa is not far from us. Sabrina says, hi, everyone. Going to listen while I drive. Very, very good. I'm not going to do anything too visual today, except for, of course, shine and glow on the screen. Mark says 23 years. I can say it's a little longer than me. Yeah, I have known Laura. Oh, it can't. No. I've known Laura 21 years because I'm pretty sure she was at my 30th birthday. Maybe 5th. Yeah, 22 years. Rob says I was sweating out all day. What a delicious share. Thank you. Isa says, speaking of sunshine, I love this. Dion Fortune wrote that all sun gods are healing gods, and I've been thinking about that a lot lately. That's so interesting because Dion Fortune was, of course, from somewhere where the sun is scarce. So you would see the sun as a healer. I'm from somewhere where people die if they're left in cars by people. I mean, like, if you leave a baby in a car, if you leave a dog in a car where I'm from, or indeed where Isa is from, they will die. So I always say, even about the sun card that is like so positive, I always say the sun is the life giver and the life taker. So I'm very respectful of that, Celsius energy, of that sort of extreme heat and brightness kind of energy. And I think everybody's own, I suppose, genetic coding, even like racial coding, will color their perceptions. So Dion Fortune, I know she was, obviously from England. I don't know if her, if her genetic makeup was any different, but it is possible that somebody who wouldn't see sun that like all the time would view the concept of the sun as something so rejuvenating and refreshing. Having said that, I can't think of any sun gods that are destructive gods. Lu, not exactly a sun god, but certainly a god in August, is very refreshing. I would love to look into that. Do you know? I'll be thinking about that a lot as well. Thank you, Isa. Everything you say, like literally any sentence you say, always sort of sends me on a tangent of long and complex thinking. Thank you so much for this incredible share. Mark, greetings, Sabrina. Eliseo, mwah, saying inspirational as always. If you guys know Eliseo, can they click through to your YouTube? If you can click through or find his YouTube according to the name, Eliseo is a composer and musician that specializes in Celtic music and in kind of meditation music. And we are going to do a thing together. Not too much information, but this is very, very exciting. Mark says, is it 21? Oops, my bad. I thought it was longer, but okay. Rob says, you are welcome. You need to know about the horrors of the humidity and lack of aircon due to a major retail company not wishing to keep us cool. See what I mean about the sun? Tammy says, hi, Chris. Hi, Inbaal. Hi. Chris is not in the studio with me. I'm producing this as well as presenting, so I'm pulling all the levers. If you see me sort of typing, it's because I'm also sort of switching between your messages, and we'll be looking at the cards and so on. Chris at the moment is, I think, moving house. So yeah, he is a busy bee right now. Tammy says, awesome, thank you. I don't like to sort of immediately mention that I'm like a one-man production at the moment, because I feel like it makes me look a little less professional. But I think anyone who is a viewer of the show is also a friend of the show. And between friends, we can talk about such things. So, guys and ladies, my topic for tonight, a topic that I think is so important in tarot, in astrology, in any kind of reading, but also in life, is boundaries. It is boundaries. And I decided on the topic a little earlier today, and I had some examples that I wanted to talk about. But just before the show started, something happened that had reignited my whole thinking about boundaries. Now, first and foremost, just so that you know, I am a huge fan of boundaries. Huge fan. I'm a Pisces. Pisceans can be like givers, give, and struggle to sort of put a boundary in place. And especially because of that, from a fairly young age, it was important for me to learn to stand up for myself, to say, no, this doesn't suit me, this is not for me. And I really sort of like to think of myself as an ace at boundaries. Now, obviously, I'm still me. I am still a Pisces. I haven't been, I was looking to transition perhaps to Sagittarius. There's no way that I could do that at this stage of evolution. So I'm still Pisces. And in a way, it's still not that hard to drag me away from my boundaries. So I need to sort of wait for a moment where I kind of wake up and drag myself back towards the boundaries. So just before the show went on, I got a message from a friend of mine explaining about his relationship. There's been a bit of a development, and saying, what do you think about it? Now, this friend, it's not like a close friend, it's a friend. And a few months ago, he was a low ebb, and he asked me a question about my opinion. And I thought, you know what's better than my opinion? I'll check in the tarot. The tarot is always right. So rather than give the opinion, I said, blah, 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 blah. The tarot sees this. And that turned out to be super scary, accurate, as transpired over the days and weeks that followed. And so here and there, he was still kind of at a low ebb, and he was sort of asking me a question here and a question there. And because I sort of gave the first one without charge, because I felt sad for what he was going through, then I was doing a little question here. It wasn't even like a whole question. Didn't charge for this, didn't charge for that. And suddenly, before I know it, we're kind of in this rhythm, in this routine of him asking questions, me giving answers, and there not being an exchange at all. And as you know, anybody who's got a business, anyone that's ever sort of done anything for anybody, payment can come in lots of different forms. There has to be an energy exchange. There has to be an energy exchange. Anyway, just before we went on air, before I went on air, I saw that message and I quickly typed and said, I'm not comfortable with this. I gave you a little question as a one off because you were at a low ebb. I carried on doing it because I felt like you needed support. But now, if you see it as a long term situation, that doesn't work for me at all. I'm really sorry. And I send you a lot of love. And I just pressed send. Now, if anyone if anyone wants for me to sort of send you that kind of a sentence, it's just, I think it's a great way of putting it, explaining why it was cool when it was cool, explaining why it's not cool anymore, and then basically sort of putting that boundary, putting that that full stop. Just as the what do you call it? Just as our credits were rolling, I had a little look and he sent me sort of some lovely emojis and says, I absolutely get it. I appreciate all of the support that you've given me. So that was like a beautiful way to leave it. And I thought this is an interesting story to share. It's an interesting experience to share because I know that a lot of people struggle with boundaries because they'll type that message and then they're going to be like, oh, I'm not going to send it because he's going to be hurt. Or I'm not going to send it because he's going to say to people that I'm not a good person. Or I'm not going to send it because, I can just keep on supporting. So first of all, nobody can be hurt if you speak to them from the heart. And if they are hurt when you speak to them from the heart, that's really their problem, not yours. But also, I think it is like the worst karma if you're going to support somebody and your heart is not like fully in it. So if I had done a little reading and I thought, wow, wish I had not done it, I'd be sending that reading with resentment. And he's very psychic. He would pick up on that resentment and then I've done more harm than good. So in my view, putting a boundary in place is always in your benefit and in the other person's benefit, because when you have a boundary, everybody's clear on exactly what is going on. So this example was just the one example that I had. I have other examples that if you work professionally as a psychic, but also if you live as a human being in the world, might help you find your voice and learn how to put a boundary yourself. I know that at least a couple of you are like, people I know personally are such like aces in boundaries, and perhaps you don't need that. And then what I need from you is to put in examples and other tips and tricks for everybody involved. So I'm going to go through a few more messages and then we're going to look at a couple more stories about boundaries within readings. Tammy is greeting Dal Dal. Dal Dal is greeting everyone. Mark says, indeed, those which know he's a good friend know all this were boundaries, and you, and rightly so. Michelle says hello. Hi, Michelle. Greeting Roger. Oh, I think I did something funny with my screen. Greeting Tammy. Michelle is greeting Dal Dal. Oh, saying it's 2:19 p.m. Oregon time. And Mark says, damn right, you can't have people taking the mic. One off is a good thing, but to keep going is not correct. Exactly. And I think it's so easy to kind of fall into a habit, not just in a reading, but, let's say if you're working with somebody and you're always the one making the coffees, or let's say like even in a relationship where you end up like either paying for anything, or if you end up doing all the cleaning, or anything like that where it becomes a habit, and if it's a habit that you resent, it's better to stop than to, than to get into that place of resentment. Michelle says, beautiful earrings, and Val, thank you so much. I'm really going through a phase of the longy, longy ones. Dada says, I tell my daughter all the time, you have to charge something. She constant reads tarot for a lady in another country all day, all night for free. Time change is time change is time consuming. It's not just time consuming, it's energy consuming as well. And in my view, if you're doing it to gain experience, fair enough. I've certainly done, like now I do a lot of paid writing, like about astrology and about tarot and stuff. But for a long time, I did a lot of unpaid writing, and that gave me experience. And I really thought, if I do a lot of unpaid writing, eventually paid writing will come. And eventually it did. So doing unpaid writing to gain experience, that's great. Doing unpaid readings to gain experience, great. Doing unpaid readings in exchange for reviews, another wonderful way to do it. Doing unpaid readings in exchange for a kind of sharing your name, any kind of energy exchange, but she has to charge something. And I really, really agree. And actually, you can even screen record it for her or like trim it for her and say, Dada's daughter, it is, first of all, important to charge. And secondly, important to charge what you feel is right as opposed to what everybody else charges. When I started out, now granted it was the 90s, I thought everything was so expensive then, but really looking back, it was so cheap. So back in the 90s, I started out in like 97, 98, and the first readings that I did for a small reading, I charged £6. And the way I got that is because everybody else starting out was charging 5, but I started out when I already had sort of quite a lot of experience. I had several years experience under my belt, so I thought 6. But then I learned from a friend how to do palmistry, and we went to the Green Man Festival in Lewis, I think. She had a stall. I kind of chipped in to be part of the stall, and I was doing readings. Actually, that time I was doing readings for £5 because it was really sort of just to have fun. But I said for an extra £1, I'll do palmistry. And my palmistry was very, very basic at that time, but everybody was really happy because they just sort of gave £1. So there has to be an exchange of something. It can be £1, it can be a fiver, it can be exactly what you value yourself at. I actually have, I don't know if I can show it. Can I show it anyway? No, I don't think I can show it, but I actually have a YouTube video. Maybe I can put the link. I have a YouTube video about how to price up your reading. Let me see if I can find it. I'm sure I can find it, but YouTube Inbaal price reading. Right, let's see what happens if I put Inbaal price reading. Yes, honestly, I don't even know how to get you there. Let me copy the share. Copy. Right, so I'm going to put the link below, but if you just type into the YouTube screen Inbaal price reading, I've got a little 20-minute video about how to price up your reading. So I'm putting that in the comments from Inbaal, and I'm going to flash it up. I don't know if it's clickable or what, but I hope that, at least some of you can see it. or really, like I said, just sort of put Inbaal price readings, and you'll get my little explainer on how to price up your readings. Basically, see how much you want to earn in the day, how many hours of work generate how many hours of readings, and divide it. It's a whole formula. It's my formula. Um, Michelle says boundaries are important. I agree so hard with that. Catherine says shared. Fabulous. Thank you. Rob says, I literally had to say to someone, this will be your final free reading. That was the end of that, right? You know, I always say that. I say free work leads to more free work. Paid work leads to more paid work. Again, you're really full. I've got my own formula. I've got my own catchphrases that only I say. But this is really sort of over the space of, gosh, how long has this been my job? Like 26 years, been 26 years my full-time job, and then like 2-3 years before that. So it's a long time. And in that experience, I found that it is very, very rare, like a 1% or maybe less, for a free client to become a paid client. Whereas a paid client brings all their friends and relatives. Rob says, I really look up to you in your power of boundaries. Such an inspiration. You know how you have changed my life and helped me find my voice. I love that. I love that because I feel like I'm not confident, you know, because I work hard at being confident. I'm confident because of a certain privilege. I was raised by relatively sort of balanced, stable mom and dad, relatively. I was raised in a sort of very calm family environment by people who thought that I was good at everything, that I was the smartest thing and the brightest thing ever. So that created a confident persona, which makes it very easy for me to set boundaries, makes it very easy for me to say no. And I appreciate that is not the case for everybody, but everybody can get better at it. And I know that I have got better at it because we all have a little people pleaser inside us. We all want people to be happy, I hope, right? But I like to sort of really lead in with practical solutions. So Rob knows I literally sort of tell you the sentences that I use in order to set boundaries. For example, if somebody says to you, you know, do you want to do blah, blah, blah? And it would be like the worst idea. I'll give you an example. Like for me, I love camping in hot countries. Love it in hot countries. Camping in the UK, absolutely not. Absolutely out of the question. So if anybody says to me, you know, we should go camping, I go, oh, it's not for me. That is, I think, such an inoffensive, straightforward way of saying no without saying your opinion sucks. Your idea is, you know, horrific. No, it's not for me. It's not for me. Also, you know, I'm a big Friends fan, and one of my favorite characters, Phoebe, is so good at putting boundaries, and she says stuff like, I wish I could, but I don't want to. Or Monica's going to make us back. She has jobs for everyone. It's too late for me, but run, save your souls. You know, stuff like that. But yeah, thank you so much, Rob. Mark says, years ago when I was a psychic, I had a certain person who did similar, but mine was face to face. My answer was very Aquarian. Shut in moments. It made no difference to me. It says doing psychic readings can so drain you, and I mean like really drain you, which can lead to ill health. If Dalda, this is for you, for your daughter, it can lead to ill health if you do it too much, if you're stressed by someone who keeps harassing you. Yeah, if people don't leave you alone, if they don't let you be, again, especially in that kind of a sort of psychic answering questions and stuff, Block, 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 block. I have fired clients. I have blocked people because when I used to have a situation, it's another story about boundaries. I used to have a situation where a client in Australia, so the exact opposite time to me, would send a question, and my one question is £10, right? One question by email, but there's no option to to fast track it. I'm either available or I'm not available, and I'll do it later. And she used to send a question and then send me a message and say, "Can you do it now?" And I'll be like, "Oh no, I can't really do it now. I had babies at the time, I'm feeding the baby or whatever." And she'd be like, "All right, yeah, no, so I won't book." And I'm like, well, I do want the tenor. Okay, I'll go to the computer and I'll do it. I don't think I even had like a working smartphone at the time. This is years ago. Those babies are now 13 and 15. And it would get to a point where it would be about three of those a day. So I would have to run to the computer for about three of them a day. And really, sort of overall, even 20 and £30 in a day is not worth you being on tenterhooks and sort of running to the computer again and again. Not that I'm sort of um, whining about my customers. I love all my customers, but she was really demanding with it. Really like, are you available right now? I'm going to sleep. Are you available right now? So eventually it was actually a neighbor of mine who is a Reiki healer, and she said, block her. And I was like, well, it's when the babies were small, I wasn't even earning that much. I wasn't advertising. I wasn't on social media. I had left London where all my customers were. And I said to her, it's a big portion of my income at the moment. And she was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. You have to block her. And I did. And it was the right choice. Mark says, here's one for you. I left school in 97, so long ago. I feel old. That's crazy because I think of you so much younger than me, and I left school in 91. Crystal says, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Crystal. Crystal is a Pisces like me and knows how not easy it is to put boundaries. Crystal, greeting Mark. Mark, greeting Crystal. Dalda says, that would be awesome. Thank you. Mwah. Mark says, it has appeared and I tested it and it works. Crystal says, hello, lovely Inbaal. Mwah. Mark says, mentioning catchphrases. Yeah, I know so many Inbaalisms. 20 years of them are great and some are a kick when I need it. You know which one? Yeah, I know. I don't have the best of manners, but I like to sort of be very truthful, which I hope makes up for it. Spawn says, hello, blessings to everyone. Hello. Mark says, evening, Spawn. Right, input from Crystal. Everybody listen. Crystal says, boundaries are very important. Readings are very draining. I have had people ask me to do a reading. I will do the reading and they never watch the video. You are joking. Some people are also like a little allergic to the truth. Would you not agree, Crystal? So I think sometimes people sort of don't go intent to their reading because they'd rather not know. But then just don't ask. Spawn says, hello, Mark. How are you? Dal says, the lady asks the same thing over and over again. She just wants to make you give her the answer she wants. And tarot isn't like that. It is not. So this actually leads me to my second story. I know I've already told you like 15, but my second kind of big story that I wanted to discuss, and that is how your own personal boundaries might be very different to other people. So my personality is such that I don't mind when people ask the same things again and again and again and again. I don't mind it at all. I know the customer gets a certain comfort from it. Even I get a certain comfort from it, from discussing similar topics or looking at the same person, and that it could be the same reading again. I don't mind it. And good friend of mine in London used to refer what I think of as kind of excessive clients. She used to refer them to me because she could not hack it. For her, she would feel like there's such a waste of time. She'd be like, I gave them the information. They have the information. Why would they ask for the information again? Whereas for me, I'm fine with it. And I think, well, I'd rather they booked with me, sat with me, had the honest reading. Maybe they'll ask something a little bit different, as opposed to if they're not asking me, or if I said to them, I don't want to talk about the same thing again and again, they're going to go to someone else who might not be as truthful, who might not be as committed, and who might sell them a different fantasy. And so, with your daughter, Dal, who I understand is committed to not giving this lady the answer she wants, to giving her the answer that is the actual answer, that tells me that she is doing it exactly the right way. And then if the lady is fed up with it, then, go. But as long as your daughter gets something for it, and it sounds like a service that is definitely worth good money. If I needed to talk about the same thing again and again, I would, of course, pay for it exactly what it costs. So yeah, that's even more so. Mark, greetings, Spawn. Rob says, it's worth mentioning about readings you aren't comfortable doing. I've had people try and trick me into answering questions I wasn't comfortable with as if I wouldn't realize. That is a very interesting one. So, back when I worked on Psychic TV, there was a psychic who was so professional. She was one of the ones that had like a real big following even before she started working there. She had had like a 30-year career before she started working there. And we used to answer the phones in booths. And so my booth was next to her in that show, and I could hear a lady asking her whether the lady has a terminal illness or doesn't have it. And the psychic was having none of it. She was shouting down the phone, "What do you want me to tell you?" Sorry, I can't do an accent. "What do you want me to tell you? Do you want me to tell you have it? Do you want me to tell you haven't got it? No, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to look at it. No, I'm not doing this reading." And that was such a masterclass. It was such a thing of beauty to observe, because she was telling her very clearly that this was not happening. Go to someone else. Loads of psychics. Go to someone else. Somebody else will have that conversation with you. Um, Spawn is saying, wishing for a little rain. Garden's looking a little dry. Yeah, mine was dry. It's not dry anymore. Mark says, because I have a very young energy. I think so. Crystal says, I think that is exactly what it is. I've given people some of their darkest secrets, and they look at me like, how do you know that? And now they're like, I'm afraid of you. Babe, fear is such a useful emotion. Fear is such a great emotion in other people. If they're afraid of you, if they can't handle something in you because they are afraid of something in them, then that is a boundary by itself. The fear is securing your boundary for you. Isa says, I've been very soft lately. I need to be more like my mom. She is amazing at speaking up and saying no. I hear her in my head a lot. I love that. I love that, Isa, because my mom was sort of quite a strong person. I still think like I'm stronger at boundaries, but I can hear my mom. She's been sort of gone 10 years now, but I can still hear her in my head saying, because I don't want to. That's a great reason. You say no, person says why. You say, because I don't want to. That is such a my mum thing, and sounds like your mum as well. Middle Eastern mums are top. top grade. And I recall my mom marching into my school when there was anything that she didn't agree with, and that made me feel very safe. So you've got somebody helping you secure your boundaries alongside you, or even better, when it's like a parent securing your boundaries on your behalf. It's an incredible feeling. Crystal says some people just feel entitled. If they're your friend or family member, they think they should have it for free and never try to sponsor you or pay. This is how you know who is really a friend, because I will tell you, none of my friends even ask for discounts. And even in my family, it's like, it's most of my family are not sort of really into it, but it really kind of took me aback when one of my mum's uncles, one of my mum's cousins, her husband, um, came to my house when I was over there. I was just visiting, and when I'm visiting, I try not to work because holidays is also important. But he came at me with English money rolled up, like he came especially with English money, and he was like, can we have a look at a few things? And paid. I normally sort of in face to face. I only charge after. Obviously, over the phone I charge before, but face to face I charge after because I like to provide the goods. And then anyway, he paid in advance, which again is a very Middle Eastern thing, isn't it? You show the money, then you do the trade. So my friends do not ask for discounts. My family will offer money. My cousin, who I'm very close with, always offers money, but from her I can't take. And my not so very good friends, they're the ones that expect like a freebie here and a freebie there. And that really helps you find out, Crystal, right? Who is with you and who is on their own side. Mark says, when I was option zero many years ago, so that was on the TV show. And when you dial in, you could dial for somebody in the studio, but that was sort of hard to get in. Or you had option zero, which I really think should have been called option one. Like option zero is such a negative way to refer to it. But Mark was an option zero psychic. So that was a night duty at about 3 a.m. And a person rang for a reading, which of course, I know the person that rang back another 3 times that night expecting different. I thought you were going to say they rang 3 times that night, to keep the reading going, because it used to be automatically cut off at 20 minutes because of the rules, so that nobody sort of tries to make the reading sort of go longer and longer. But yeah, expecting different. That is kind of funny. Mark says, do I know that psychic? I know them really, really, really well. Aquarius, by any chance? No one played with her. Actually, not her. I'll tell you after. But yeah, but she was exactly the same. The person that Mark refers to, who is no longer with us, she was extraordinary. She had great boundaries. She had strong boundaries, but her gift was just out of this world. She once gave me a message in my mother tongue, which she does not speak. So yeah, she was extraordinary. But yeah, she wasn't the one I was referring to. And then my third and final example about boundaries is still in the neighborhood, in the region of how everybody's boundaries are different. So I was saying about how everybody's boundaries are different. I can actually see a little message from Instagram, because I normally can't see the messages, but I just sort of flick the screen so I can see. And Monica says, and this is a message important to share with everyone, says it might be okay to offer your time to someone learning in exchange for a reading. Absolutely. I think the best way to learn, the best way to teach is through practice. And then it's an energy exchange. And energy is, pay in absolutely every way. I used to have a really, really good friend years ago, years ago, and I was only starting on this path. And so I was earning very, very little. And we kind of learned the tarot together. And he asked for a reading, and I said, I'll be happy to do him a reading. And he said he's not having it for free. And I said, well, I'm not taking money. So he went to the shop and filled my fridge. That is, a wonderful energy exchange. But yeah, there's a lot to be said. But yeah, on the topic of how everybody's, sorry, I just realized the real monarchist mug I've got there. On the topic of how everyone, sorry, I know I've got a cup of coffee somewhere here. Oh no, empty. On the topic of how everybody's boundaries are different. So I already said how my good friend could not take excessive users and I could. So for her, it was a boundary that she would say, no more than, say, a reading a month. And some people really sort of needed the boost of 2-3 readings per week. And that was cool with me. Another friend, much long before, she used to have a rule to not give someone a reading same day. So if, say, you sent me a message and you said, where's your nearest availability? She said not to offer today, even if you're available. So I accepted that because she was a lot more experienced than me at the time. And it was years before I took myself to look into it and thought, oh, that's not really very me, because sometimes somebody does need a reading the same day. So her reasoning for it was that she said if somebody needs a reading right now, they're being driven by stress, motivated by stress, and they won't listen properly. And when I thought about it, I thought, wow, that's really judgmental. Because sometimes if I need a reading right now, I need it right now, for maybe other reasons. And so I like to kind of leave things in the lap of the gods. And if that person slid into my messages at the exact time that there is a space for their reading, I'll say, yeah, I'm available now, or I'm available tonight, or, when can you make it? Especially as I work across all the time zones. Sometimes I need to be available at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm cool with that. Sometimes I'll be on. I used to schedule readings like after the show, but if I'm honest, it really sort of wiped me out. But still, I'll do like 11 p.m. my time, midnight my time. Ideally, not a midnight one followed by 5:30 one, but you never know. So with that friend who said never schedule people same day, it was maybe 10 years that I stuck to it. And then I thought about it and I thought, yeah, that's really not me. I'm happy scheduling somebody same day because I feel like availability is an important part of the service that I offer. I think availability is an important part of the service that anybody offers. If you've got like a hairdresser's, if you've got like, I don't know, beautician, whatever it is, if you can take somebody same day, why wouldn't you? So her boundaries and my boundaries were completely different. So Mark says, oh, wow, I freaking love Dear Aqua Mom. I miss her so much. 6 years, but yeah, you are correct. No one played with her. Absolutely. So if I'm honest, that was pretty much what I wanted to cover in looking into boundaries within readings. If anyone's got a story to share, if anyone's got a question about it, please don't hesitate. Please don't hesitate. I would love to answer. And if there's not really a lot to share, I was going to take a little message for the collective for everyone and sign off. So let me get cracking with a message for the collective and then see if anybody would like to share some of your messages. I'm going to pull out 3 cards, and that will hopefully be a message that resonates with you. Right, we have got 4 of Cups, the 3 of Cups, and the Devil. And together, this is Party Sissy. Here, we've got, this is for everybody, and it says, enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. It says, the people who love you want for you to enjoy yourself. There is nothing that can be gained by sacrificing where no sacrifice is needed. The Devil card adds to that and says, even if it's too much, even if it's excessive, if it's bringing you joy and it's harming nobody, go for it. So hopefully that's a message that some of you can relate to. I'm going to flash the final couple of messages, and then I'm going to bid you good night. Mark says, what is the weird boundaries that were broken? I don't remember. Is it something that I said in the beginning? Weird boundaries broken. I don't remember. Sorry, mum brain. And Isa says, brilliant episode. Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing about the unfortunate, which is what I'll be reading up about before I go to sleep, and about your mom. Thank you, everybody, for spending this lovely time with me. I had the best time. I am not here next Tuesday. I'm on holiday, and I'm going to be going to America for the first time in my life. Wish me luck. I'm a little excited. No, I'm very excited, a little bit frightened. Fingers crossed. So I'll be here on Thursday with Laura at 11:30 on UK time, mid-morning, late morning. And then I'm going to miss a whole week, and hopefully I'll catch up with you when I get back. Have a wonderful evening. Sending you lots of love.
Yeah.